Happy Pokemon Day, everybody. And what better way to celebrate Pokemon Day than with the latest Yu-Gi-Oh game? Yep, this one's called Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days Collection, and honestly, I didn't know about this game until just recently. Ended up picking up this morning, put a couple hours in, and felt like talking about it for a little bit. I feel like I'm probably not the only one that didn't know that this game was coming out, so I figured why not make a video to inform some of you guys who might be curious or don't know what a Yu-Gi-Oh game is. But before I go any further, I do want to let you guys know that apparently my Elgato was cooked. I tried to capture footage from my own gameplay and realized that my Elgato just was not working. I haven't used it in quite some time, so to be fair, but the footage you're going to see is going to be stock footage from the Konami trailers for the game itself. Just wanted to put that out there, but yeah, I did put a couple hours into this, again, from this morning, but Elgato's not having a good time, so let's continue on with the video. Yu-Gi-Oh! What can I say that hasn't been said before? Back when I was a kid, the anime was the talk of the town. Buying cards, specifically the character decks from the show, was all the rage. I will never forget going to elementary school, and in lunch there would be a crowd of kids hovering over each other, watching each other duel as if it was a real fight. Me? I loved Yu-Gi-Oh! But never really bought the cards. I remember getting the Yugi deck and my brother and cousin getting the Kaiba and Joey deck, but I think that's as far as we went. What I was hooked on was the anime, and can you blame me? You had a group of high school kids boarding on a cruise to go on an island where they would risk their lives to play a children's card game. If that synopsis isn't batshit crazy, then we need to talk. But no, seriously, the anime is something I still hold near and dear to my heart, although I only really watched Yugi's overall arc and some of the sequel series, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. The only thing that I felt like a lot of the kids in my grades didn't really play was the Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games, and well, here we are with a collection of games that apparently all came out during the peak of Yu-Gi-Oh's anime run. Now, to be fair, some of these games didn't really come out here in America and are actually making their debut for the first time with this collection. After putting in some time with the collection, I can safely say that for 50 bucks, you're getting yourself a good deal. Now, that's not to say all 14 games are great, but I'd be hard-pressed to hear that you don't find some new favorites among the selection. Now, I don't want to go into super detail on every single game. That would probably make the video a lot longer than it needs to be, but I definitely would love to highlight a few. Starting off with Yu-Gi-Oh! The Eternal Duelist Soul. Believe it or not, I actually bought a copy of this game a while back and never got around to playing it, and now I feel like I've been missing out. To me, this is probably the closest it gets to feeling like you're in the anime, with all the characters you get to duel and the cards you get to unlock. I think the character portraits look great, and the music is amazing. I love how you start off battling some of the easier opponents from the anime, like Tristan and Yugi, base Yugi, but then fight against Pegasus, Malik, and even Yugi's granddaddy. Although I found myself playing this game the most, there were some others that retained my attention, like World Championship 2004. Now, I might have played Eternal Duelist the most, but this is definitely the better overall game. In many ways, it's a sequel, and it shows with better artwork, more cards to collect, and the music. And I really want to hone in on the music because, my goodness, I think I might have found some new favorites here. Usually for Game Boy Advance, like OSTs, I lean towards Pokemon games because those are like goated, but there's a lot here to be digested, and I honestly could see myself using a lot of this soundtrack for videos, future videos to be exact. Not much else to say about Championship 2004 because at the end of the day, it's still just more Yu-Gi-Oh! I'll talk about one more game here that will most definitely throw some newcomers for a loop, and that's Yu-Gi-Oh! Monster Capsule. Now, this game was only released in Japan and can now finally be played over here, and well, I think it's a pretty interesting game to say the least. This game doesn't really play like your traditional Yu-Gi-Oh! Game, you know, cards and all. Nope, this is a tactics game. I went into most of these games blind, so you can only imagine the look on my face when it was time to play this one. The game is interesting though, and there is some actual strategy to be had, and I didn't find it overall too obnoxious or annoying. I want to give it more time because out of all the games I've played here, it's definitely the one that's been on my mind the most. Now, there are what I feel like are some less than interesting games in the collection. Again, there's 14 games, so your mileage might vary. For starters, I couldn't get into Dungeon Dice Monsters. I remember when they started introducing this game in the anime, and although it looks cool, it lacks in the fun factor for me compared to the card game itself. There's also Destiny Board Traveler, which adds board game mechanics with some of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Flair, and yeah, take that as you will. Just wasn't for me. It also doesn't help that you could barely read the text in the game. Yikes. At the end of the day, it's a Yu-Gi-Oh! Collection, and if you don't care for the card game at all, there's not much here to really chew on, and the games that try to set themselves apart are kind of a mixed bag. Another negative here with the collection, since we're on the topic of some negatives here, is that if you've never played a Yu-Gi-Oh game, there's not really a lot here when it comes to tutorials. Some games will kind of brief you in some mechanics, but shit, if it wasn't for me being familiar with the card game overall, I could see myself being a little overwhelmed with all this. Now, to be fair, there are manuals for every single game that are in the collection, but I would have preferred them to actually have like a gameplay tutorial over you having to read through the manual to really understand the intricacies of the game. That's just my opinion though. There is a rewind feature in the game which could help those who want to learn from trial and error, and the collection itself is really easy to navigate through. I love the fact that there's some filter options for every game, and I can't reinstate enough how great the artwork and music for the games are. The game is out on PC and Switch, but I feel like it feels right at home with the Switch, since, you know, all these games were built with handheld in mind, and it kind of makes the most sense. At the end of the day, like I've mentioned before, it's a Yu-Gi-Oh collection. If you're interested in Yu-Gi-Oh or know of Yu-Gi-Oh, then this might fit right in your pocket pretty well. But if Yu-Gi-Oh is something that you don't have much interest in, or you just want to try some of the newer games that we've never gotten here, it's kind of a mixed bag. Some of those games aren't that great, and the ones that are few and far between. So, hey, if you're a collector like me though, this is a nice box art to have in your collection, and it's actually, like I said, it's a pretty good time overall. And those are my first impressions for the latest Yu-Gi-Oh game, Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days Collection. Again, I think it's a pretty good collection if you're interested in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or just wanted to get into the franchise. Yeah, there's not a lot of great tutorials besides the manuals, and if you have time to read, then go for it. But overall, pretty good time. I know one thing people are probably going to get on me is that, hey, you didn't talk about the multiplayer. I didn't get to play with anybody. It's pretty early still over here in Pennsylvania, and I haven't really had anyone to play with. There's online here that I didn't try out because I think there's only one game you can play online, and it wasn't the game I wanted to play. But I also know the game is not cross-play or anything like that, so keep that in mind if you're planning on playing this with your friends. I don't really think you can play all of these games, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will be posting my Monster Hunter review-esque video soon, hopefully, unless something goes horrible, which hopefully it won't. But thank you again for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. My name is yugioh. I will be continuing doing videos every single week, whether it's new releases, old releases, or just rants, or anything honestly in general. But again, thank you for stopping by. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.